Hey, John Harris here with the Rock Metal Podcast. Join me as we get to go behind the scenes into what goes into producing records and making music as we interview some of our favorite and soon-to-be favorite bands. Today we're chatting with Jaime Preciado of Pierce the Veil. For fans of Bring Me the Horizon, Falling in Reverse, My Chemical Romance, and Sleeping with Sirens, we'll be chatting about Pierce the Veil's new album, Jaws of Life, produced by Paul Meany of 21 Pilots, Mutemath, and the Blue Stones fame. We'll get to hear the story about how all of that came to be, ways to never make the same record twice, and so much more. So please stay tuned to the very end. But first, let's check in with our beautiful sponsors. Asher Media Relations, doing public relations for everything loud. For your band needs to be seen and heard in print, online, and radio, head over to AsherMediaRelations.com. That's AsherMediaRelations.com. Mention the Rock Metal Podcast and get your band noticed. Syndicol Music is a full-service agency for musicians offering record label services, marketing, branding, production, and management. Head over to syndicolmusic.com. That's syndicolmusic.com. SYNDICOL music.com. Mention the Rock Metal Podcast and take your music career to the next level. Well, Jaime, thank you so much for coming on. Go ahead and say hello to all of our beautiful listeners.
Hello. Hola. How you guys doing?
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Back to you, Jaime. We are doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you again for coming on. Let's get into this. New record, Jaws of Life, out February 10th, Fearless Records. My first question, Jaime, is what was the greatest moment for you producing this record?
We had a lot of, it was definitely not just me. It was a lot of people a lot of cooks in the kitchen on this one. And having someone like Paul Meany on the record, producing just so many different things. I can't even begin to start. This is the first time we've done a lot of these things. We had Brad from Third Eye Blind drum on the record. Paul Meany from Mutemath produced the record, who we've never had a producer who was also an artist work on an album before with us. So that was a completely new thing. And we recorded it in a house in New Orleans. So this record was just from beginning to end, it was just such a different process than we've ever done. And that's our go-to. We never want to make the same record twice. We never want to do the same process twice. We take all the good things and all the bad things that we've done in the past and try to learn from them and keep going. And this was the same. We definitely did a bunch of stuff that I really loved and a lot of stuff that we, want to work on for the next album and moving on. So, I think across the board, just this whole process was very special to all of us. And I think we all just became closer because of it. The three of us just in a house, living together, building the songs day by day. And also, and not to mention, having, like I said, having Paul Meany as an artist, being able to butt heads with somebody like that because we're both so passionate about the project, so that was really fun too. I think we've never actually had that in the past.
Butting heads. I'm imagining Gordon Ramsay and somebody else getting at it, talking about, that's not how you cook a steak. That's his that's a baseline, buddy, where I come from.
Yeah.
Brad from Third Eye Blind drumming on the record, which is, super cool. Recorded in a house in New Orleans, and it sounds like even living in that house. Never wanting to make the same record twice. Building the songs day by day. So many cool things. Were there any challenges on this record? And if so, what did you learn from those challenges? Yeah,
I think not only just the time that we were in making the record, we were post-pandemic, still kind of at the tail end, learning how to navigate that. And then also once we left the house, we still had to do a lot of work. Vic and I recorded all the vocals here in San Diego, in our studio here in San Diego, sending them to Paul, him sending us back, a lot of Zoom sessions like that. We've never done anything like that ever. So all of those things, we can call them challenges. They were just different ways of doing the same kind of idea. Back in the day, we would spend 3 months in a studio. But that just wasn't the case this time around. And, we had to definitely have a couple, learn, do a couple things on the spot and figure that stuff out. But, I think the record is, how it sounds and what it is because of all those things.
Yeah. You mentioned a few things there. One I wanted to unpackage was Zoom sessions and working remotely, basically.
Exactly.
Take us through that. How do you work? How do you make an album over Zoom?
Yeah, exactly. There was times when it was me, Vic, and Paul were on a Zoom session and we were watching Paul's screen as he was showing us what he was doing in real time. And it was almost like we were in the room with him, but we were, 3,000 miles away or however far, so that to us, we've never done that. And it was crazy that technology has come this far to be able to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was just so different, trying to be creative through a screen, talking to someone, in another state across the, it was wild. So that we've never done that before. It's a lot of new challenges for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so using Zoom, connecting, across state lines, real-time recording, voodoo stuff, speaking of New Orleans, but is there any other gear? I mean, how did you guys set up the studio? Maybe take us through that in the New Orleans space.
Yeah, I mean, normally we try to bring as much stuff as possible to the studio, but Paul had an assortment of a bunch of different gear. He had like tape machines. He had this like giant space echo machine that we were just running everything through because it sounded crazy and weird. And yeah, man, there was my favorite version, my favorite takes when we were towards the end of tracking, say, one song. Paul Meany would say, all right, time to do the fuck all tracks, which meant grab any instrument, grab anything that makes noise, and we're just going to do maybe 2 or 3 passes of the song, and we're going to make these crazy weird sounds and do kinds of, and we were just, one guy's on the guitar, one guy's with the drill hitting the guitar, just making these crazy weird sounds. One guy's on a guitar pedal. And then after 10 minutes of that, we would take 3 seconds of one thing that we heard that was cool. And that turned into this little thing in the beginning of the song or in the middle of the song. Like, that was super fun because that's literally like on the spot creativity. And we've never done that in the past. And not only did it help us kind of get the juices flowing creativity wise, it also made it super fun and made it kind of like, it kind of took us a step back to like, hey man, we're not only we're making an album, but we're having fun doing it, and that's really important to us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I imagine it'd be important to you guys, taking the process of making albums, but making it fun with these fuck all tracks, getting 3 seconds of something super on the spot, spontaneously creative, becomes a unique part of the recording. Get those juices flowing. Taking a step back to look at the bigger picture. Now, earlier, Jaime, you had mentioned that the album got you guys closer together. Was this the reason why?
Well, yeah, I mean, with as soon as we got done touring in like 2017, 2018, we normally do the decompress from tour, start having a conversation about the album, start getting together, start working on stuff, skeleton some ideas. And we were doing that for a good amount, almost a full year. And then obviously the pandemic happened. And that for us was such a lot of bands go into that and were able to get creative during that time, being at home, being in your home studios, working on tunes and stuff. And we were just like, not that. We were so opposite of that, unfortunately. And it was tough for us because we're such a tight, knit unit that being away from each other made it very difficult to be creative. And then obviously, once we started getting together again, we realized how much we missed each other and how much we all got, like during that time, we all got married. Vic's about to have a kid on the way. Like our families grew and our PTV family grew. And that made it feel, we just really missed each other. And I think once we got together and realized the band is starting to build steam again, people are starting to talk about us going into the studio and all that stuff. It kind of made us realize how much like resilient we are, and how much, how together we actually feel, how connected we were. We missed that stuff. So being in the house in New Orleans really felt like we were on tour again, like we were getting ready to play some of the biggest shows we probably would play. And we had that in the back of our minds always.
Yeah. Interrupted by the pandemic, realizing you're a tight-knit unit and being apart made it difficult to be creative. I mean, any other musicians listening in right now resonate with that at all whatsoever? You guys got married. Vic's about to have a kid. I read that some of the themes on the record are really quite personal. Did all of this go into the record?
Yeah. I mean, lyrically, that's more of a Vic question, but I know that there was a lot of themes on the record about being kind of overwhelmed, being kind of stuck. And I mean, the whole record is kind of, the jaws of life meaning to us was something about seeing the sun again, being able to breathe again, being able to go, okay, I can do this. Let's go. Let's fucking go, So, like I said, every song has its own deeper meaning. And that's more of a Vic question because, he does all our lyrics and stuff. But I know, a lot of the songs had that type of, aggressiveness towards that escaping kind of part, especially like, Past Nirvana, a perfect example of that song. That one had such aggression from the start, and that one we knew was going to be the first track we were going to release. We knew that was the first track we got finished on the record. And and yeah, that kind of feeling of things that we used to take for granted, like a lot of kids that year didn't get to graduate like normal, didn't get to go to a normal prom, just so many different things happened that we just didn't realize. And it felt like we needed a song to kind of rally around and be like, you know what, this is fucked, and now we can kind of, move forward and get past that and listen to that song live and really escape from all that.
Yeah, each song having its own deeper meaning, really connecting with how you feel in the moment, and it was what it was. Aggressives towards the feeling of being stuck, towards things we took for granted. More to come, but let's go ahead and check in with our beautiful sponsors. Two Madsen is responsible for producing, mixing, and mastering some of the best metal for over the last 20 years. From Meshuggah to The Haunted to Poison Black, Kemper Profiler packs for guitar players, and Easy Drummer expansion packs for programming drums. Two Madsen can take your production to a level previously unheard. Head over to twomadsen.com. That's twomadsen.com. TUEMADSEN. Click contact. Fill out the info for your next project, and let Two know that the Rock Metal Podcast sent you. Wormhole Death is a modern record label, publishing, and film production company born in 2008. Getting signed to this label means global distribution, publishing, and marketing with Wormhole Death's roster of global partnerships. Head over to wormholedeath.com, that's wormholedeath.com, submit your band, and let them know the Rock Metal Podcast sent you. How would you define success at this stage of your career, or maybe even with just regard to this release, Jaime?
Success. Wow. I think for us, I have such a small, I'm like a little puppy, man. I get excited of just about everything. Just you give me some good news and I'm super pumped. For me, I'm just really thankful that all these fans stuck around. It's tough, especially now that in this day and age where attention is so important. The social media is so important, and you could literally be forgotten in a day. No one cares in a day, so the fact that we've been gone for so long, working on new music, and are starting to like have this resurgence of new music coming out. All these fans that stuck around, all the shows that we've played thus far have been so amazing. Probably the best shows we've ever done in our career. It feels really special, and to me, I want to just keep doing that. I want to keep growing. I want to keep showing new fans our music. Because as much as it like blows my mind, I remember every night. In the last couple of months, when we were playing shows, we would ask the crowd, how many times have you seen, Pierce the Veil play? And being a band as long as we have, we expect pretty much everyone in the crowd to at least seen us once. And it was almost more than half said it was their first time seeing us. So wow. That to us is such a huge, and it's just such an amazing feeling, because it feels like we're a brand new band. It feels like we're starting over in this level of we're a little bit stronger. We're a little bit wiser. We're a little bit, it's just all these things coming into play, and it feels really cool, man. And I think if we can just kind of ride this wave and keep building and playing for new fans every night, I think that's a win for us.
Yeah, being like a puppy with good news, being grateful that fans have stuck around, because you mentioned you can be forgotten in a day, and being on stage, playing for new fans. What an honor. Absolutely incredible response to the success question. Now let's go ahead and head back to a conversation about Paul Meany.
Meany-Math, the Meany-Meister.
The Meany-Meister, you mentioned him many, many times, and I didn't want to ignore that whatsoever. So I'll give you just a broad stroke question and just let you go. Paul Meany, what was that like?
Paul Meany, first and foremost, he's a great artist. And I think artistic people like Paul are very strong opinions about certain things. And that was something that I think me personally I was ready for it, but it was like when someone cares just as much as your project as you do, there's something there. There's something cool going on. And sometimes, he told us some truths that we had to kind of, listen to, and things that we fought over, whether it was like this, the song was going to be this way or this part was going to be that way. And I think for us, a little bit, we had to, in certain situations like that, we kind of had to stick to our guns, in the sense of like, this isn't our first album either, and we had to kind of like convince ourselves like, hey, this is our fifth album. Like we also have like a lot of knowledge that we're maybe forgetting or not using right at the moment. So like sometimes and this is not necessarily with just Paul, this could be with any record, with any producer, just even on your own, like you have to kind of trust your gut and trust the fact that all the moves you made thus far have gotten you where you're at now. So sometimes when you're making a new album, doubt starts to creep in, Is this song cool? Does this work? Is this the vibe we're looking for? And you have to just kind of trust yourself. And he brought that out of us a lot. You know, there were so many times when he just was like, dude, you guys are pierced the fucking veil. And that to me was like, it was super funny at the time, but man, did we sometimes need to hear that, because you forget you're in the zone. You're too zoomed in on the project. You're like, you have blinders on. And then he kind of goes, hey, take a step back. Look what we've done, you know? And you're like, oh shit, this is actually like kind of crazy, you know? So that sometimes you need somebody to kind of take you a step back, you know, and look at the bigger picture of things. And he was really good at doing that, because he's been in that situation. You know, he knows the ins and outs of labels and management, and you know, even like from like radio stuff, you know, like we've never danced with that kind of before. So he was talking about even things like that. He's like, be prepared for this, be prepared for that. So he definitely was a master in his wisdom, for sure.
Very cool. Knows labels, management, radio, be prepared for certain things.
Yeah.
I guess without sharing too much, what's something that he shared with you that was like, I don't know, earth shattering, where you were like, okay, very cool.
Man, so many things. I don't know if it was earth shattering. There were just little bits, you know, he was never like one day he would say something super profound. It was just all day, little tiny things, you know. He was very much into like the soul of things. He's like, I don't care. Like, he kind of made me realize sometimes you don't need the perfect take or the perfect, you need to find the take that's perfect for the song. You need to find the performance that works for the song. And that was something that we've never, you know, we've always been very surgical when it comes to recording and tracking, and, you know, hey, this has to be like perfect. And he was kind of like, perfect's not always better, you know, and that to us kind of blew our minds a little bit. And we've known that, but it was just nice to have somebody say that and be like, hey, sometimes I want to hear a little bit of humanness in your playing. And that really kind of changed a lot of our perception on certain things. And I thought that was a really cool thing. And I'll still use that tip all the time. You know, I love getting a good performance, for sure.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that perfect is not always better. And I opened up the question saying, you know, what shattered the earth? What spinned the earth on its axis that you learned from Paul? And baby, all you just said was perfect is not always better. And I couldn't agree with you more.
That's kind of what it felt like, you know, and that was kind of an eye-opening, like, oh wow, you're right. Like that, like some of my favorite songs weren't to the grid, weren't on click, weren't chopped up and made after the fact. It was just a dude in his guitar, and he played it in a cool way. And, you know, and I still hear song, you know, I was watching some sort of mixing thing, because I like to, you know, watch those nerdy things about audio stuff. And it was the producer who recorded Chris Stapleton's Tennessee Whiskey. And he's like, the band just came in and just played it, and I just recorded it. Like it wasn't like multi-tracked. It wasn't like they just sat in a room. I pressed record because I didn't know what was going on. And there was things on the song that made the, you know, and I'm just like listening to that. And I'm like, that wasn't professionally tracked, like one instrument at a time. There's no way. And he showed, you know, he was playing each individual track, and there was bleed, there was nasty hum. And he's like, that shit didn't matter. What mattered is we got the performance. And that, I was just like, he's right. He's right. It's a great song. It's a great tune. It's a great record.
There it is.
Great recording.
Yeah. Bob Rock said that.
Yep.
If it doesn't sound good in the room with one microphone, it ain't going to sound good
yeah. Amen, brother.
Yeah. What's the number one thing that you would like people listening right now to do?
Well, I'm always going to say, if you haven't heard of us, please check us out. And if you have heard of us, hopefully we will be coming to a town near you and playing some new songs. And also our album, Jaws of Life, comes out February 10th worldwide. So, if you're like me, go pick it up.
Go pick it up, baby. That's right. So go ahead and head over to therockmetalpodcast.ca. All the show notes for today, especially all the bonus tips and things, are going to be available. The link to Jaws of Life, which is out February 10th, will be there, as well as music videos that have been released to promote the record. So definitely a very cool place to head if you are keen. So
keen.
I mean, keen. Yeah.
If you're keen, come on down.
If you're keen.
I also said go pick up our album, like streaming isn't a thing, but yeah, you can stream it everywhere as well too, because that's the new age. I'm still old fashioned. I'm like, go pick up the album in stores, but I don't know. We'll see.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
That's it for this episode of the Rock Metal Podcast. Stay tuned, because next week we're going to be chatting with Niilo Sevanen of the band Insomnium. Not only does our new record come with a short story that will surprise you, but Niilo wouldn't live life any other way, and I can't wait for you to hear his take on living a life of passion. Go ahead and hit subscribe on your podcast player, share it with your friends, and I'll see you next week.